I wanted to talk to you today about the power of changing your thoughts. One of the central tenet really of my coaching model is to help clients understand that the thoughts they have in their head aren't always objectively true. In fact, most of the time they're not. They're just a bunch of words, or that someone else has said to them, that society has put there, or that they've thought up themselves. So most of the time your thoughts aren't actual fact. Then to understand that thoughts are really important to be aware of because they create your feelings. Right? So an event happens, you have a thought about the event, or the circumstance or the situation or the person, and that creates feelings. Now, this is all important because if the feelings you're getting are negative, then what you can do is change the thought. We have very little control over anything in our lives. We just have to accept it and work with it, go with the flow. But what we can always control is our response, our thoughts and beliefs about a situation or a person or whatever. So it's important to use that tool, to be aware of what's going on in your mind and how that's making you feel, and to be able to choose to change that to serve you better if you want to. Now, is it always a good idea? One of my clients a few months ago was having issues with her partner, and she decided, having talked about it and tried all sorts of things, tried to get him to change, that he was never going to change, and she was very frustrated and thinking that she was going to have to end the relationship, dump him. But she didn't want to because she loved him very much. So what she decided to do was to accept this particular behaviour and be okay with it by changing her thoughts. Right? Now, that may seem like quite a disempowered, subservient thing to do, because that's not really a compromise. It's basically saying, okay, so you're always going to run this behaviour, you're not going to change it, so I'm just going to be okay with it. Is that like giving in? Is that like capitulation? How is that healthy? How is that good for you? And so I just want to explain why it is a good thing, because it's not necessarily the first thing you'd think, but it really is a good thing. So to use an example from my life, I have a very disorganized friend who is wonderful and fascinating and one of the finest people I've ever met. But she is hugely disorganized. She would say that herself. And however detailed we made the arrangements and things, there would always be a last minute problem, and she would always be late. She has very complex, busy, demanding life, and there'd always be something, and she'd be late, as in half an hour late, not 5 or 10 minutes late. So it would be impactful, this lateness. And I would think, yeah, well, do you know what? I've got a busy life too. Thank you. And I've managed to get here on time. In fact, I'm a really prompt person. And in my model of the world, everyone should get there on time unless there's a really good reason. And everyone's, late occasionally, but not habitually. That's not okay with me. So this became a problem. We'd run a little cycle where she'd rush in all flustered, going, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm like, oh my God, this happened and this happened, And I would be a bit, yeah, right, okay, fine. Yeah, well, never mind, you're here now. But I would be spending that half an hour sitting in a cafe or something on my own, just seething about it. And then there was a move, and we ended up living further apart. And I just went through a phase of going, do you know what, I can't face it. I can't be arsed, because there'll be even more distance to travel, so probably even more lateness. And I basically stopped seeing her for a while. Stopped hanging out, and this sort of stuff just happens, Anyway, so I missed her because she is fab, and so in the end, I decided to change my thoughts about her lateness. So I created a little mantra for myself, which was, she's always late, but it's worth the wait. And I would sit there for the half hour, and I would just, first of all, I'd say to myself, I'm not waiting, I'm just being. I'm being, and at some point my friend's going to turn up. And so I would practice mindfulness. So I'd either be breathing, or I'd be, looking around the room, or enjoying the coffee I'm drinking, all that sort of thing. And every time I felt a little pinprick of resentment come up, I'd be like, she's always late and it's worth the wait. Yeah, and then I would think about all the cool stuff. Like, she's one of the few women that makes me laugh out loud. She's extremely witty. She's incredibly knowledgeable about politics, current affairs, esoteric culture, all sorts of things. And, she's the sort of person where if you haven't seen her for a while, it's like you've never not been together. And we can just talk and talk and talk for hours. So I would think about all the positives of the relationship, all the stuff I like, everything that I personally am gaining from it. Because this is the question I ask myself, how is this situation serving me? Is this friendship bringing something to my life? And once I decided that it was bringing something to my life, then that's why I decided to change my thoughts. Yeah. So I changed my thoughts, and it works. I mean, it took a few times, but it got easier and easier each time. And so she's still late, and she's still fabulous. And I told her about this because she understands these mind management things as well. I told her that I decided to be okay with her lateness. And she was like massively relieved and grateful because, she was kind of feeling on her end that almost she couldn't face seeing me. She said there were times she hadn't got in touch with me because she couldn't face the sort of the kind of seething that she'd have to deal with, having dealt with whatever the problem was that made her late, and it just became a bit emotionally stressful and exhausting. And also she saw it as a real gift that I had basically said, your friendship, knowing you, everything that you are is so valuable to me, and our history together is so valuable that I'm really not going to let this one thing spoil that. And so I'm making the effort to make a change. I'm accepting that you're not going to change, because people don't change. They don't change, because change is hard. And most people are running behaviours that might piss us off, but they don't piss them off. And so they've got no impetus to change. The only thing you can do is change stuff around you, is change yourself. So I accept that you're not going to change, and, I love you and want you as a friend anyway. And so for her, that was great. So that was a win for her because she didn't have the stress anymore of worrying about my reaction, and she knew that she was valued as a friend. Now, how is it a win for me? How is that not subservient behaviour on my part? Well, the wins for me are that I still get to have this person in my life who is massively beneficial to me. She's, fascinating and funny, and we can just talk for hours, and she's incredibly supportive and knowledgeable, and, she's just awesome. So I get to have that relationship still. I haven't had to end it. I haven't lost that person from my life. So that's a big win. The other win for me is that I don't have to go through that cycle of going, oh God, she's going to be late this time. How late's it going to be? Should I take some stuff to do, while I'm waiting for her? Should I turn up 10 minutes late so that I'm only waiting for her? I don't have to go through all that crap, and I don't have to sit there seething, because bad feelings feel bad, right? They do. So I've spared myself that, so that is a second win for me, right? So this whole thing is a win-win-win. So it's a win for my friend, and it's a win for me because I get to have this person in my life, and I don't have to have the crap feelings around this particular behaviour that she's running. So in that sense, it's certainly not disempowering to accept the behaviour of someone close to you, to accept it by understanding that they're not going to change it, and that you can change your thoughts about it. So that is pragmatic, because people don't change. You can't change other people, you can only change yourself. So it's pragmatic to do it, and it's empowering because it allows you to enjoy the relationship again and all the benefits you get from it. And it also means that you don't have to feel bad feelings about it. So yeah, we've ended up with a more deep and relaxed and happy friendship as a result. And so I would encourage all of you, most of us are in relationships and things, that to maybe just ask yourself, if your partner's doing something that's really pissed you off and you've asked them to change a million times and they said they will and they're really sorry and they genuinely are, and they change for a few times and then they end up back doing what they do, just consider this as a fresh option, that you always have the choice to change how you feel about things. And the other way that this is empowered is that you get to change those thoughts anytime you like. At some point you can decide, no, because actually there's that behaviour, but there's also this behaviour and the other behaviour, and actually all in all, I don't think this relationship is beneficial for me anymore. You always have that choice. So you're always coming from an empowered place about whether you choose to have that person, that relationship, or that situation in your life. So yeah, be empowered and think about behaviours that you and your partner might have. And maybe you've done this sort of thing where you've changed your thoughts about things, and as a result, you are happier.